So I ran across this Red Cross emergency preparedness checklist, right? What you need in a survival kit. I also ran across this thing, which is pretty cool. We got it a long time ago and just never really used it. So I thought, hey, let's test it out today and see if it's actually any good. Not sponsored, by the way. In fact, nothing in today's video is sponsored. We're just out here having a chat in the woodshed. But if this thing turns out pretty cool, I will link to it down in the description below so you can check it out. Talking about, preparedness and stuff. When you're splitting kindling, man, if you got one of those in it, that ain't very cool at all. We're going to skip that one. Oh, this one, though, looks like a good one. Chopping your fingers off in an emergency, pretty bad deal. So, wow. Wanted to test this out and see if it's actually cool or not. I guess a smashed finger is better than a cut off finger. I don't know. Yeah, so what is on this list, right? They give 15 things that you need, and it's actually a pretty good list if you're like just getting into preparedness, or maybe if you've been prepping for a while but you kind of got tunnel vision on just some things like personal protection, say, right? A lot of preparedness folks are really focused on just guns, right? Well, there's a lot more to it than just having enough guns, man. And so, there was a knot right there. So what do they got on their list? Well, number one, right, they've got water. They say, which I agree with, in part, you ought to have at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. And that's good, right? If all you want to do is really drink it, maybe brush your teeth, maybe wash your hands a couple times. But if you're going to be doing any sort of dishes or bathing, 1 gallon of water per day is not going to be very good, right? It's not going to make you feel very happy if that's all you've got, right? And in an emergency situation, you want to feel happy. I mean, like, you want to feel good because there's going to be enough stress going on in your life that you don't want to have to be stressing out about stinking or, feeling grimy. So try to store up a little bit more water than just 1 gallon a day, right? So I think that's kind of a weakness on the list. They do divide it up, right, in between. If you're evacuating, then you want to have 1 gallon of water per person per day for 3 days, which, I mean, if you have to evacuate your house, why are you evacuating, right? You may live in an area where you would probably never really have to evacuate. But for us, right, we live up here in North Idaho, forest fires, real concern. And you're not going to want to bug in with a forest fire, right? There's no way. You're going to have to evacuate. Hurricanes, floods, things like that, you're going to have to evacuate. And so have enough water to make sure that you can survive at least 3 days, right, without a clean source of water to drink. But if you're bugging in, then they're saying they want you to have at least 2 weeks worth of water stored up in your house so that you can like hunker down, shelter in place, and have plenty of water if the water were to go out. That's good. But don't you think, man, it'd be a lot better if you had more? I think so. Right? I think it'd be a lot better if you have more. Of course, we have our well. We've got a hand pump on our well. So we don't have an issue with water. But you guys that live in suburbia or in a city or something, you're going to have a problem with water. And then food, of course, right? Food is number 2 on their list. They want you to have a 3-day supply of food on hand, which is good, right? I mean, 3 days, that'll get you through a little bit. But what if you could have a little bit more, man? That would be awesome as well. What kind of food would you want to store? I mean, like, there's all kinds of non-perishable foods that you can store, like, canned food. Just want to rotate through them a little bit. They're going to last for several years. But, if you set up your emergency supplies and you don't need them for 15 years, do you really want to eat a 15-year-old can of chili? Maybe, but maybe not, right? So kind of rotate through those if you're doing that. You've got those meals ready to eat, MREs. You've also got those kind of like C rations. It's like a big cookie thing that's all vacuum sealed up. Or you've got freeze-dried meals as well that'll last like 25 years. I will link down in the description below to different things in this list that you might want to consider getting, right? If you don't already have them. But check out the links down below, and I'll link a bunch of stuff down there so you can check it out. I got to break in here real quick because when I was reviewing the video, I realized that I totally spaced, probably just like the Red Cross, totally spaced how you're going to cook that food. Right? You need to have a way to cook food or to heat food. Yeah, you can eat cold chili beans right out of the can. It's totally possible. You can eat freeze-dried meals, still freeze-dried, or just with cold water. But man, is that going to be lame or what? And we don't want to be lame when we're surviving, right? We want to be as comfortable as we can because we're going to be in a super stressful situation. We want our wife to be calm. We want our kids to be calm. We want everybody to be calm so that we can use our brains to stay alive. And so we want to be able to cook that food. I'll make a video about how to cook indoors when the power's out for you guys. I'm coming up here probably in a couple weeks or so. But also, man, I'll just link to some tools down below that you can use. Totally simple, inexpensive ways that you can cook safely in your home when the power's out. All right, let's jump back into the regular rest of the video. Flashlight is number 3. Flashlight, and I mean, that's probably an EDC thing. I mean, you have a flashlight on your phone probably, but a dedicated flashlight is going to be a lot more powerful and a lot more, you know, you're gonna feel a lot better having a dedicated flashlight. Also, you might want to consider not just a handheld flashlight, but a headlamp. That way, right, like if we were out here in the dark and I needed to split some kindling, well, if I had a headlamp, I could do that, right? I could do that super easy. Probably wouldn't crush my fingers with this 3-pound mallet thing. Battery powered or hand crank radio with like NOAA weather on it. That's an important thing to have because, you know, you're going to get FM, you're going to get AM, but you're also going to get those emergency alerts on it as well. And so, you know, if you live in a hurricane area, tornado area, those are going to be really important. Severe storms or weather like we could have up here, be good to have that and have that information available to you when you need it. Again, I'll put a link down there to a pretty good emergency radio that doesn't require batteries, right? It's got a little solar panel on it. It's got a hand crank. It's got a light. You can charge your phone on it, although they don't really like charge a phone super well, but be better than nothing. We'll talk about charging phones and stuff later. Along with that, extra batteries. I mean, batteries last a long time, right? You can just pick up a whole box. Just think about what you use in your house that might require batteries. AA's, AAA's, you know, D-cell. C's, I mean, I don't know. I remember C's when I was a kid, but I don't know of anything that takes C's anymore. But have a little stockpile of batteries. Because in an emergency, you might not be able to run down to the store and buy some. Next on the list there from the Red Cross, first aid kits. Man, first aid kits, super important, right? You're out here cutting kindling and you chop your finger off or you smash it really bad. Oh man, hope I don't do that in this video. Think about this too, man. You could be, right, away from medical help, or, you know, ambulances might not be coming right away. And so you may need a couple days supply, right? If you cut your finger off with your hatchet trying to make kindling, man, dude, that's going to be a bad situation. You're going to need to change that bandage, in other words, right? So make sure you have enough bandages to change bandages for a few days if you get a nasty wound or one of your kids get a nasty wound. Also, you know, pain medications, you know, regular over-the-counter stuff, Advil, Tylenol, that type of stuff. You want to make sure you've got a good stockpile of that. Another thing that you might want to consider putting in your first aid kit is prescription antibiotics. Now, I know it's a little controversial. I've got some friends that are pharmacists. Some are like pro you stocking up on antibiotics. Others are against it. It's, you know, everybody's individual decision to make there. I'll link to a service down below where you can get prescription antibiotics legally, right, online. You have a little consultation with a doctor and they'll ship them out to you with your name, your prescription. and you can stock them away, right? And then once they go bad in a few years, you can reorder them again and always have antibiotics ready to go. But also, you know, you think about medications, right? Like some of you guys are probably on prescription medications that you need, say like you're diabetic and need insulin or something. Make sure that you've got a little supply of all of your prescription medications that you're going to need. You might want to think about allergy medication too. You know, like right now it's winter, so allergies aren't a big deal. But if you have severe allergies and an emergency happens in the middle of spring, right, you might be hurting and wishing that you had some antibiotics. So, I mean, not antibiotics. What are they called? Allergy medication. So stock up on whatever types of medication you think you might need and or you have prescriptions for. Number 8 on the list is a multi-tool or a multi-purpose tool, kind of like this one right here. This is the one that I've used for years. It's a SOG power lock, and it's got, you know, all of your standard tools that a Leatherman would have or a Gerber, but I really do like this one a lot better. The way that it's hinged in the gears, you know, you can't move one side independent of the other, right? They move together because there's gears in the middle, and it really multiplies your gripping force. In other words, you don't have to squeeze it quite so hard to hold on to something or to cut something hard with the cutters. And so the SOG multi-tool or the SOG power lock tool works really good. Oh, look at that. That one didn't cut so good. Huh. Number 9 is personal hygiene and sanitation. That's another important thing, right? Especially for you ladies out there, right? Having sufficient personal feminine hygiene products, because you never know when an emergency is going to happen, and you're going to be a lot more comfortable if you've got the stuff that you normally use in your emergency kit, because Walgreens or CVC or something might not be available. Oh, yeah, that one went right. Well, went right next to that knot. We're going to try to go right through that knot right there. See what happens. Oh, not too bad. It kind of went around it. Number 10 on the list is important documents that you're going to need if you're in an emergency situation. Your house burns down in a forest fire. You might want your birth certificates, your marriage license. You might want the deed to your house. You might want insurance papers. You might want bank account information. Passports might be a good thing to have in your emergency kit, at least copies of all of these things so that you can replace the originals quicker if you need to. You know, you want to put those probably in a plastic bag, like a gallon Ziploc bag or something like that. But I'd also really recommend having them on a thumb drive. Some people are really concerned about the security of putting those on a thumb drive, because what if somebody steals it or gets it and now they've got all of your documents? Well, they'd have all the printed documents anyway, but I understand. And so you can get securable thumb drives. I'll link to one down in the description below that's like, you know, safe. If somebody stole it, they couldn't just plug it into a computer and download all of your information. And while you're at it, man, if you've got a thumb drive, right, your documents aren't going to take up a lot of space. So why don't you put your family pictures and anything like that that you would want to have if your house burnt down. Your family photo albums, your pictures, home movies, all that kind of stuff. Just put it on that thumb drive, and man, you were going to feel so much better if your house got flooded or blown away in a tornado or burned up in a forest fire, and you still got the pictures of your kids when they were babies, pictures of your grandparents that have passed away, all that kind of stuff. Put it on that flash drive as well. It doesn't take up any extra space. There's no extra weight. There's no reason not to, right? So get one of those. That's a good idea, man. I just thought of that. I need to do that. Another thing, cell phone charger. Make sure you got one of those. Of course, in these days and ages, we all have our cell phones on us pretty much all the time, every day, all day. You want to make sure you've got a way to charge it, right? And so if the power's out, you can't just plug it into the wall. You're going to want some type of battery bank to charge that up with. Again, I'll link down below to a pretty good one that we have and use around the house. Number 12, family emergency contact information. And when I read that, I'm like, yeah, of course, you're going to want that. It's going to be on your phone, duh. But man, have you ever lost your phone? Have you ever dropped your phone in the toilet? Have you ever accidentally broken it or let it die and then you needed to make a call but it was dead? I've done that. I've done actually all of those things. I did drop it in the toilet one time, a long time ago. But nonetheless, right, have that list. And I can remember my childhood phone number, which is still my parents' phone number. And I can remember my cousin's phone number because like we used to call all the time, right? Like we were really good friends and we'd be on the phone all the time, especially during the summertime. But you know, the rotary dial, man. Yes, we had one of those with a really long coiled up cord. So I remember those. I remember Julie's phone number because that's the one we use for like everything. But my own phone number, I don't even know my own phone number. I don't know my kids' phone numbers. I don't know my parents' cell phone numbers. I don't know any other number except for 911. I bet that you were just like me, man. Once we got these smartphones, we stopped remembering phone numbers. That's a detriment, really. But also, you think about it, if you got kids or grandkids, make them up a little card. Write a card and laminate it, put it in their backpack or put it in their wallet or their purse or something if they, grandkids have purses, I don't know. But in that way, if they get lost or something and somebody wants to help them, there's all the phone numbers that they need, emergency contact information, right on that card there. And those kids, man, it'll help you find them a lot faster. You get separated in a disaster situation, ugh, that'd be terrible. But if they got phone numbers, then they can get a hold of somebody, hopefully, and you'll be able to find them quicker. Need some more wood. Number 13 is emergency cash. Yes. Emergency cash, man. Why? Why do you need emergency cash? Well, if the power's out and you can still buy something, which is probably going to be pretty slim chance, but if the power's out or the credit card system's down, then you're going to have to use cash, right? That one was hard. You're going to have to use cash, and you want to have small bills as well because, you just got like 5 $100 bills in there and you want to buy something for 20 bucks. There's a good opportunity for somebody to say, oh, I'm sorry, man, we don't have any change. But you want it, right? You need it. You're going to end up paying $100 for something that costs $20. Uh-oh. And you don't want to do that. So have small bills in there. 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s. You don't need any $100 bills, right? All small bills. And that way, you won't get overcharged for something when you shouldn't. Make it go a lot further. But how much, right? Well, they don't really say how much on that Red Cross form. But I would recommend $500. That's probably a good amount to have because you've got some people out there, man, that are pretty shady, and prices are probably really going to go up. Oh, that one was nice and hard. Lots of knots in that one. You see that? But so far, this thing's working out pretty good, isn't it? I'm liking it. I will link to it down in the description below. So let's see, number 14 on the list, we've got an emergency blanket. And of course, if you're staying in your home, probably don't need an emergency blanket because you have all kinds of blankets in your home. But if you have to evacuate, especially in the wintertime, you're going to want an emergency blanket. When you're leaving in a hurry, you might not be thinking about having a blanket on hand, right? So just have that emergency blanket or an emergency bivvy, probably a little bit better, higher quality. And then when you have to flee and you just grab that kit, you don't have to remember to get the comforter off the bed. Oh, that one didn't go so good, did it? There we go. And number 15 is maps. Maps are important. You need to get somewhere. when you evacuate. You don't want to go down the main roads maybe because, you know, everybody else is trying to go down the main roads. You want to try to find the back roads. You want to try to get around traffic. You want to get around town. You're going to need a map to be able to do that probably. For a lot of people, you know, some of you guys that like grew up in the same town and you've been there your entire life. Maybe you don't need a map of that area. But man, most people have moved and they don't live in the same town they grew up in. They don't know all the little back alleys and dirt roads and everything to get around town. So get a map, put it in your emergency kit, and that way when you need to evacuate, you can do that. Another idea, Seth and I did this when we went up to Alaska because we figured that we wouldn't have cell phone service in a lot of places as we were going to Alaska. We went on a motorcycle trip, by the way, last summer. We downloaded the maps on our phone, right? Like Google Maps and Apple Maps. You can download maps and then use them when you don't have service. In a situation, as long as it's not like a solar flare, the satellites are all still going to be working. Maybe an EMP would take them out too, like a nuclear detonated EMP. But aside from that, the satellites are still going to be working. Your GPS on your phone is still going to work. If you've downloaded those maps, even if there is no cell service, you'll still be able to use them and still be able to navigate right there on your phone. No problemo. That's what we did when we went to Alaska. Those are the 15 basic things that they've got on their list. And they say, you know, once you get those 15 things kind of covered, then they go into some further stuff, right? Like medical supplies. We already talked about medicine, but medical supplies like an extra pair of glasses. If you need corrective lenses, man, having an extra pair of glasses would be super important, right? Could you imagine if you've got really bad eyesight and you lost your glasses? What are you going to do? You need those extra pair. Syringes, if you need those for different medical things. If you need oxygen, a separate oxygen thing that, you know, you could have an extra. Also, they talk about baby supplies, baby food, diapers and stuff like that. And even if you're breastfeeding or your wife's breastfeeding, you want to make sure probably and have some formula as well, even if you're like totally anti-formula, because what happens if something happens to the mom and she can no longer breastfeed for whatever reason, and then the baby doesn't have any food? So you want to make sure and have some extra emergency food for the baby. On here, we've also got games and activities for kids, right? To keep the parents sane, keep the kids entertained. They're going to be under a lot of stress too, man. They may not have access to their iPads and iPods and all kinds of stuff that you normally kept them active with. I wouldn't recommend doing that anyway, but you know, a lot of kids are like that. And now they don't have anything. So how are you going to keep them entertained so that you can remain sane? Two-way radios, important, right? Keep communication going if the cell phone system's down. Pet supplies, if you got pets, man, they're going to need food. They're going to need water. They're going to need a place to hunker down in a little crate or something like that. Manual can opener. How many people don't have a manual can opener in their house? They only got the electric one. That's lame. You need a manual one, right? And then it goes into some more stuff, right? Whistles, N95 masks, matches, rain gear, towels, all that kind of stuff. The list is pretty good, but it is missing some kind of key things that I really think that we ought to have in our emergency preparedness kit. And so if you really want to know like a good detailed list, well, we've got a list for you right over here on the screen. It's free. You can download it and check it off as you go and fill it up. Super highly recommend that. So go ahead and get that. I'll link to it down in the description below. Or if you're on a TV, you can scan the QR code that's on the screen here. And what do you guys think about this splitter? It's pretty cool. It works good. I don't know. Do I like it better than a hatchet? I like it better than a light hatchet. Right, I usually use this axe and just hold it up here. Right, so you can just go like that. But let's get a piece of wood here and we'll do a little experiment. We got this little piece here. Right, so you just go. Whoa, look at that, man. That's trying to go through that knot. Doesn't want to. Okay, let's put it in here and see how it does. Yeah, we did it, but it wasn't easy. That was a big knot. I don't know, guys. Try it again. There's a knot right there. You really got to work it if you get any knots. All right, let's put it back in here again. This thing's pretty cool, pretty easy. I kind of like it better. Just depends on how you're feeling at the time. You can cut it up pretty small without worrying about cutting your fingers. You guys let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Also, let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about the Red Cross's emergency survival kit checklist? It's pretty good. Like I said, missing some stuff. Get our complete list if you want it. Also, man, if you're concerned about EMPs, solar flares, things like that, to take out electronics, well, we made, right up here, this video, we made a Faraday cage out of a 55-gallon drum. Super simple to do and super durable. You might have seen those ones where they make them out of a trash can. This one is way better, man. Check out that video if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Hope you have a really great day. Keep smiling.